Hey everybody, and welcome to another flip through. Now, in this flip through, we're gonna do two flip throughs. We're gonna flip through this one, the getting started, and then we are also going to flip through the actual Baron's War rulebook. Now, if you haven't, you can actually watch the unboxing right there of the Baron's War Second Edition. And in the unboxing, you will see this. I want to call it a guidebook, a starter book. And I feel I should really talk about this book very, very quick. So let's not waste any time. Let's get into it. Now, when you get the Baron's War Second Edition set, you'll get this. This is the Baron's War Second Getting Started book, flyer. I'm not sure what to call it. But in this, you'll actually see the introduction, and this is basically the writers of the rulebook telling you why this thing exists, both for newbies and for veterans alike. Now, if you're a newbie, this is absolutely essential. If you are a veteran, there are some bits here which you could find useful. Now, very quickly, let's have a look at what this is. Now, it starts off with the identifying and assembling your 28mm figures. They've got this bit over here which I thought was quite nice, and this is the each frame is color coded, right? So you can actually see which bits are which. For a lot of folks who are not well versed in the medieval era or period, or do not know what different weapons are called, this is great because you've got the different names of the different weapons and stuff like that. The only problem I have is, check this out. So if you look at this from a distance, you can't tell that any of these frames are color coded, right? You got to really look in there. You go like, yeah, that's a color right there, and then you double check it. It's a small nitpick, but when I first flipped through this, I couldn't see, I didn't see the difference, from a distance. I don't know if it's age or what, but I think if it was slightly bigger, or maybe the color is more prominent, it would have helped. I'm not so sure how else they would have done it, but I mean, look at it. I mean, from a distance, you can't tell what's what. Anyways, so this is the identifying and assembling the 28mm plastic miniatures, which I think is a good addition to have in a starter set. And then you got your hobbying. Now this hobbying bit is good if you're a newbie. Most veteran players would bypass this. And then we have two sample retinues, right? The blue retinue and the red retinue. You'll be pleased to know that they're actually two different retinue lists, and instead of them being exactly alike, they're quite different, which is good because if they were super alike, then it would have been a waste of paper. But having them different means that you will find yourself going through the list, and if you're sharing this with a friend, one person can take the red retinue and one person can take the blue retinue, and you can actually get on with it. The thing about this, which is kind of good, is the fact that at the end of the day, you can they help you build it, right? You can build it however you want, but as for a newbie, this retinue 500 point list is actually kind of cool. Alternatively, you can actually build a whole 1000 point list, which is up to you. I mean, if you're not sharing the box and you want this all to yourself. There are also some build notes, bannermans, and how to put together, your bannerman and your bowman and stuff like that. Yeah. And then there's the scenario part. This is your first scenario, if you're just starting out. So no need to hit the rule book just as yet to do the difficult scenarios. This one they recommend to be the more easy one to start with. And as with any scenario, there is the deployment and the table layout. The only problem I have with this is the fact that none of the scatter terrain that you get with the Baron's War set you use here. There's maybe that over there, one bit. But it seems like they assume that you already have all the other bits of terrain, your forests and your hills and stuff like that, which I understand. But if you're new, you probably want something that's immediate out of the box. So for example, they have their four different scatter terrain bits. Maybe have that as your first scenario. I would think that would have been better, strictly because, if you're catering to the newbie and the veterans will probably bypass this altogether, and they'll probably like get into the rule book per se and start playing those rules. So if this book, will be more for the newbie, I would have recommended going with the terrain bits that you got in the box set. It's a minor nitpick, but I'm big on getting new players to play, and new players, opening new boxes, want to know that everything they need to play is in there. Anyways, moving along, we got the quick reference sheet, and there are two here. And if you're like me and been playing games for quite a while, it's kind of nice that they have the like little like dotted thingy. You can cut right here, and both players can actually have like different have a sheet of their own to play with. So, all in all, I think it's kind of cool that they have this. I really appreciate that they do. Like I said, a few rather nitpicks, but yeah, great piece of flipping through right there. Right, so now we're gonna flip through the actual Barons War, second edition rule set. Now, so a few things I want to say before I go into the book very very quick. I will do my best as possible, my best not to spoil the rules. Why? Because I think if you find this at all interesting, you should go and get the set yourself, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go talk about maybe the how the book looks, give you a feel of the design of the book. Perhaps one or two rules maybe I'll just jump into, but be warned that if you're hoping to get an insight to all the rules, no, you're probably not gonna get it from this flip through. So yeah, so this is the Barons War second edition, and it's done by Andy Hopday. Hope I pronounced his name right. And as you can see, it's a thick book, man. It's quite thick. You got the opening credits, and then you got the forward. They're very 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 quick to say that this is not exactly a redo of the first edition, of which, like I said, I do not own. So for me, this is all new. But to the new guys, or the guys who've been playing a while, this is not a rewrite of the rules. That's what they say. So you get dice. So you get what you need to play, and these are mostly stuff you get in the starter set. The miniatures, you get dice, the different kinds of dice, the moral penalties dice. So this is what the dice. The ones I was not so sure what they were when I first opened the box. So they're morale penalty dice apparently. And then you got your action tokens and status markers. And these are your tokens that you get in the box. You don't get measuring device, so you need that. You met retinue list, you need that. So you either put one together, or if you're new, you'll probably use the one that you got in your in the getting started sheet just now. And they got terrain. Like I said, if you just started, you probably have those 8 pieces of terrain, I think, to start with. If you're a veteran, you probably can use all the other bits of terrain you have in your terrain shelf. But to the newbie, yeah, it's time to get some terrain. Anyways, I like this part. They got key concepts to playing the game, 10 core principles, which I think is really really good. It tells me that the design guys have a certain design philosophy that they used to write the rules, and that for me is spectacular. Anyways, yes, then you have warrior characteristics, and warrior means most of the guys on the table are warriors. Now for actually for all of them, there's a few, only 5 stats. There's the movement, attack, defense, and moral and action. And if you're just a normal warrior, as you can see, everybody gets this one action. This also of course changes as you get up in quality, but that's later in the book. There's a breakdown of the warrior profiles, and then you got the game round. I like the fact that the book has a lot of artwork, which is kind of great. Actually, not kind of. It is great. It's fantastic because it totally immerses you into the period, and it's really nice work. I think it's Peter Dennis, if not mistaken. Yeah, Peter Dennis and Steve Beckett. So it's artwork from them. But also they've got miniatures. I was told that some of the miniatures are Wargames Atlantic figures and some are Foot Sword figures. I thought it was interesting but I wish they noted which ones were which. Yeah. Anyways, it's the rulebook flip through carries on with the game round. There are 3 game rounds. There's the initiative phase, activation phase, and then the housekeeping phase. Simple enough. And you got the activations. You got all the different actions that you have. You use tokens for the activations, and then you got things like compulsory action, we should talk about. Okay, so moving along, they talk about the movement actions. Says this is breakdown of the movement actions, and I like the fact that they have diagrams like this. This is an important thing, especially if your target is newbies. Why? Because you don't assume that everybody knows everything. Of course, the veterans might just quickly rush through this, but for the newbie, this is quite important. Then you got terrain, line of sight, what that is, and then you got the combat actions, some piece of art here. So you got combat actions and what those are, and then you got your attack dice pool. Now I initially thought that the color of the dice that you get, black and white, were for 2 different players, but as you can see later, they serve a totally different purpose. As they can be used for a different purpose altogether as well. Anyways, this is the range combat, how to do range combat, and then as with anything range, you got how to resolve things. Now, if you look at this one over here, I like the fact that if you're ranging in, right, if using ranged weapons, some colored dice you can use for the guys which are closer, some for guys who are further. And I like the fact that they did an example of that, which is great. So the different colored dice serve a function a little bit more than just one guy gets black, one guy gets white. Anyways, moving along, melee combat. And this is basically breaking down melee combat very, very quick. I must also add very quick that the design is quite nice. The overall look is very, very cool, very, very pretty. I think that's quite important when you're doing a rulebook, for it to look nice. And I also like the fact that they got like a period like art in this one, which I thought was quite cool. And then some really nice art by Peter Dennis. And it's you got defend actions, morale checks, and this is basically how to play the game. Then you got your commanders, the breakdown of your commanders and what your commanders can do, abilities, traits, and equipment, terrain. Well, with terrain you got what is terrain, what is impossible terrain. I like also I thought this was quite nice. A setup of what this could engagement could potentially look like on a smaller scale. I wish they had a table that looked like this, but artwork would work as well. Yeah, moving along. All these rules to explain the different bits of terrain and how to navigate the game using the different bits of terrain. Anyways, yeah, you got different charts and basic terrain, waterway terrain, and you got settlement terrain, stuff like that. You got more art, then building your own terrain. In case you have terrain in your store or in your shop or in your club, and you want to know how they will break down, and they don't fit to any of the initial terrain tables that they have here. Here's one way to identify them, and also to build your own if you want to. All right, next up you've got scenarios, and you get one scenario in the starter, getting started, pull out flyer, but here are all the different scenarios that you can use. So setting up table, the different objectives, and then you got your breaking up your groups. Now the thing is, I thought this is kind of cool. This is a bit of a throwback for me, because usually, back when I used to play, other games, you randomize the scenario, and then you randomize the map. I'm not so sure why. I know a lot of games do this now, but I feel it's a little bit of a throwback, which I quite like. It's preferable to me. So yeah, you got your 15 different scenarios, I think. Yes, 15 different scenarios, and your 18 different scenario maps. And these are the description of what they are for the scenarios. Mostly skirmish stuff. And then you got your deployment maps, which I think is great. Of course, back in the day, they didn't do this so much. But deployment maps are kind of important because it changes the game totally. It gives more variety, to a engagement. Anyways, with more art comes retinue selection, and here's how you build the groups. The game of Baron's War works on different groups, so this is kind of essential. And then you've got, a breakdown of feudal European retinues, England and French, and France in the 13th century, and then a little bit of like fluff here, no background and history here, which I truly appreciate, and it breaks down even further to different charts and abilities, which I think is great. Yeah, so moving along, you got all of this keywords, or trigger words and their effects, and then more art. Now, the up to this point, we don't talk about the lords, which are, I would think, the stronger figures and will be prominent in your games. And here's where we start talking about the lords in detail. So you got your barons and your small lords. So your barons would be like, three. You can do three actions, and your lords can do two actions, while everybody else gets one action. I think, yeah, that's kind of great, kind of cool to have as a distinction. And for me at least, it shows that the game will rely a little bit more on the more named characters. And then we break down the different character no different units, different figures in your game, from your crossbowmen to your bowmen, and the abilities that they have. Now, what you will know, or you will find out, is that each of the inherent abilities and stuff like that are talked about earlier, and you basically go back in and you find out what your abilities are, what your weapons are, and this is broken down into the different tables, which I think is good. The way the book is written is actually quite nice and easy to read if you're new. Nothing too difficult. Just go with the flow and follow the flow of the book. Anyways, you got your knight commander generator, which is and then you got your, okay, this is kind of cool as well, the Baron's War dramatis personae, and these are the more important characters historically. King John of England, and if you want to play King John, you got the abilities table here. And then you got William Marshall, Earl of Pembroke, and the region of England, and then Prince Louis, the Lion. These are your main characters, which leads us to a splash page, and this is the a nice piece of art right there. If they had given this out as an extra print out, this would have been nice to mount on your gaming wall. Yeah, just an idea. Maybe the next one, third edition, maybe. Moving along, you got your glossary, and these are what different words mean in the game. And then quick reference sheet. Now you can also use the reference sheet in the getting started one, or you can actually, if you lost that one, you can use this as well. And then nice back art, the Baron's War. Yeah, there you go. And then the back cover. Okay, so that is the flip through of the Baron's War rule book. Again, I didn't talk about the rules very much. It's basically a flip through to show you what it looks like inside, and I must say it looks really nice. It looks really pretty. I like the fact that there's a lot of miniatures to draw inspiration from, and I like the fact it's a mixture of like I said, I was told some of them were footsore, and I would assume some of them are Wargames Atlantic. And then there's nice bits of artwork from the period like artwork to more color color-filled pieces like this, which I thought was really, really nice. And it's designed quite nicely. There's a barcode here, to differentiate the different parts of the book, which I also truly appreciate, because when you're flipping, you can actually see which ones are where, and you can just go to the page. So overall, the design is very, very nice. Whoever was in charge of design, hats off. You get lots of points for that. Yeah, it looks like a simple book to read, but the proof is in the pudding when we actually get down to playing the game. So, have you flipped through the Baron's War Second Edition? What do you think? If you have and you've flipped through it, or you've played the first one, was the second edition better? Do let me know in the comments. I am curious to hear or read what your thoughts on the second edition book, and if you've got some insight on the first edition book, I would appreciate that a lot as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, don't forget to enjoy painting those figures.